this working? Yep, the Yeti's up. Got desktop audio. Okay. All right. I should get something up. My God. I didn't want to... I don't know if anyone's going to actually hop into this, but I also kind of just want to have it up for my own personal take. Also, welcome in. Hello. We're watching the next part of the VP debate stream, which has gone far differently than I thought it would. Sorry, I'm balancing like... This is absolutely fucking crazy. So I was watching the first part of it on Art Chad's stream, and then some fucking dude walked in with like a loaded gun or something. It was really weird. But now I just want to watch it myself and not be in someone else's chat because that was... It's fucking crazy. I'm gonna turn this down. Yeah, this is absolutely fucking insane. Okay. Let's get back to... All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Absolutely fucking insane.
Welcome back to the CBS News vice presidential debate. We want to turn now to
Dude, Waltz is getting fucking cooked.
Epidemic.
It's crazy.
The leading cause of death for children and teens in America is by firearms.
Waltz got cooked on abortion.
You oppose most gun legislation that Democrats claim would
we're going to guns now.
violence.
Okay.
You oppose red flag gun laws and legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles, including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, Nora, on that particular case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun...
Oh, you're watching it too? Good.
Than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride at their little faces on the first day of school. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Waltz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just, how do we actually do it? Now, here's something that really bothers me and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90%.
So you can talk mental health. Please don't do mental health.
The gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms.
Oh, okay, different spin. The illegal guns
thanks
angle.
to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns.
No one is bringing illegal guns from fucking Mexico. This is the United States. You don't need to come bring illegal guns from fucking Mexico. This is the U.S. This is gun country.
Protect our kids, and I think the answer is, and I say this.
Who are you talking about, Vance?
The answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school and
what are you talking about, Vance? What are you talking about?
Where there are visible signs of security, but I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers.
This would at best be security theater. You can't make every window bulletproof.
And take guns out of the hands of bad guys.
I think he's dodging.
Doesn't fit with recent experience.
We'll see how he goes further on, but I think he's dodging this one.
We've got to have some common sense bipartisan solutions.
I'm trying to
do that.
my take. I always try to like reverse engineer exactly what their handlers are telling them ahead of time.
This is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old and he witnessed a shooting in a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents And they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their
Ghost guns are
7-year-old
becoming a
dad,
problem. I know they've been a problem
and
here
they
in
were asking
Champaign
us to do
too.
something. And
They had a
look,
kid
I'm
at the high
100.
school who got busted with
I
them.
own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we've enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem.
He never
If we
mentions
really
stuff
wanna
on like a
solve this,
federal
we've
level
got
though. He's
folks
always
that
like,
won't
back in
allow
Minnesota. Well, back
research
in
to be
Minnesota.
done
Well,
on
back in
gun
Minnesota.
violence.
Every time.
And this idea that we should just live with it, and here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough when we know there are things that work. I've spent
Problem is,
time
I mean-
in Finland and seen some Finnish schools.
Here in Illinois, we've had like big gun bans on the books for years, like some of the most severe in the country. It doesn't work. We still have
There are reasonable
ridiculous high
things
rates of
that we
gun
can
violence.
do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to
I mean,
have
it
some
is,
of
but
these
if you were just
weapons out
honest
there,
about it and were
just
like, we
doesn't
think this is
make
a
any
safety
sense.
measure we need,
Kamala Harris,
people would
former
honestly
Attorney
probably be
General,
more receptive
worked
to
on
it,
this
Waltz.
issue. She
Don't
knows
lie.
that it's there.
Don't deflect.
No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go? When we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms, and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting, and I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's
appreciate
doing
you saying
okay.
so.
Christ have mercy. It is awful. And I appreciate what Tim said, actually, about Finland, because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly, weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Okay, first of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse, or mental health
Now we're
substance
getting to mental
abuse.
health.
We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem.
Yeah,
but
I
do
like
think it's
that.
a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets. I think there's a whole host of things that we can do here, but I do think at our schools we've got to talk about more security.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is, talking about cities and where it's at, the number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns.
In
and
Minnesota,
shooting.
Minnesota is not the
And
whole
so
country.
We have, and we should look at all of the issues. Making sure folks
If
have
you're-
health care and all that, but I want to be very careful.
Waltz has
This
spent the
idea of
entire fucking
stigmatizing
debate
mental
trying to
health
play
just
to
because you have a mental
rural
health issue
conservatives.
doesn't mean you're violent.
Don't
And I think
mention the
what we
fact
need to
that
do is
rural
stop looking
conservatives
at
are the ones
people.
dying to gun
Sometimes
violence
it's
due to
just the
suicide.
guns. It's just the guns, and there are things. that
It's
you
not
can do
just
about
the
it.
guns.
But
It's
I do
not,
think
though.
that
I
this
believed
works.
this for a
I think
long
it's a healthy
time.
conversation.
I did for a
think
long
there's
time, but
capacity
it's
to
not.
find
I'm
solutions
sorry.
on this that work.
I come from a
Second
state with
Amendment,
tough gun laws.
protect our
It
children.
doesn't
That's what
solve it.
Thank
You
you,
need
Norma.
comprehensive cultural
Thank you, Norma.
change.
Let's turn now to the top contributor to inflation, the high cost of housing and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers.
Never gonna be able to pay for it.
And a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
Thank you.
It's not hanging
Wow.
out. We have,
Go
first, let me
CVS.
say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the Vice President is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look.
Okay, but how are you going to pay for it?
Local folks make it easier to build those
Is
homes.
it going to be
And then that
the
assistance. I can tell all of you out there, one of the certainly for me,
capital
the
gains?
GI Bill was one thing.
You could go with that.
But a
Is it the
veteran
capital
home
gains
loan,
tax? Is that how you're going to pay
think
for
about
it? That would have been a
veteran
great
home
answer.
You don't have to pay the down payment.
But he's not going with that
Those
for some
things that
reason.
make it there. Now look, you're going to pay it back, and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance.
Funny thing is, on the small government and like city level, Minnesota is still really, really conservative though. That's the funny part.
People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run.
Like that's one of the big
save more
clashes
money.
between
And
Minnesota,
that's
like the
thing
Twin
that I
Cities, and
think we should be able
Chicago.
to find some
That's the reason they
common ground.
clash a
But we
lot.
can't blame,
Like on the
schools
smaller
for
level,
the reason
below
that's not the
Waltz,
case that's happening in
Minnesota
Mississippi.
is still
The fact of the
extremely
matter
conservative.
Is that we don't have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government.
Was he about to
sort
say
of helps
naturally
kickstart it,
occurring?
Create that.
Naturally
create that
occurring
base.
housing.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes you're promising?
federal land.
And what part of any of this
He did have
plan
an answer for
provide
that.
Immediate relief. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this
Pass the
country,
bill.
which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now,
I don't know
Tim
about
just mentioned a
houses,
bunch of
apartments
ideas.
definitely.
Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala Harris is not running as a newcomer to politics. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these policies to make housing more affordable,
Yeah, no, you're
invite her
totally
to
right,
use
yeah.
the office that the American
Out there in a
people
lot of
already
places.
gave her, not
Oh yeah, you're in
sit
Ohio,
and
right? Yeah,
campaign
you know how the
and do
Midwest
nothing
is.
while
Like the big
Americans
leaders
fight
might be
the American
Dems, but
dream
like on the
of
once you get
homeownership
below that,
keeps
it's all
people
red.
unaffordable. Now you asked Margaret.
Sorry, I
will
didn't mean to dox.
immediately change
I hope I was
the
wrong about
equation
that.
for American
Sorry.
citizens. If you lower energy prices, as Donald Trump says, drill baby drill, one of the biggest drivers of housing costs aside from illegal immigration.
Oh,
If a truck driver's paying
hate
40%
that.
more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic goods too.
Senator Vance, you still have 23
That's true, you could
seconds
be.
there. Do
You could
wanna
be anywhere.
answer
Can I have it?
Where, Governor, we will get to you in a moment, but Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country.
God, Walt's
We
starting to look
have
unhinged.
A lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do want to let you respond.
I don't know about
to the
kicking
allegation that the
out
Vice
the
President
immigrants.
is
I'm okay with
letting
them
in
staying as long as there's enough as long as there's enough housing for everyone. That would be great, ideal even.
Compared to when Donald Trump left office, but it's again blaming and not.
I don't wanna
trying to
kick
find a
families
solution.
on
I
the
was gonna
street.
ask, though, on this question, are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces of land. Now, Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis. For
Stop!
example.
It's not
So
not
we
all
should
about
have a
Minnesota,
land
Waltz.
issue unless we see this, and I worry about this as someone who cares deeply about.
Has
our
he just
national
like not?
parks and our federal lands? Look, Minnesota, we protect.
It's
these
not
things.
just
We've got
about
20% of the
Minnesota.
fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing.
Hello.
And you view these things as commodities. Like there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this.
I
federal
have
land, let's
mixed
sell it
feelings
for
about
that.
federal land. There's a
I think
lot of
there's
federal
better
land that
ways
could
to
be
do this.
seized and used
We've
for
seen it in
housing, and there's a
Minnesota
lot of
where
federal
they
land that
refurbish
needs to
some
be
of these
protected. A
houses,
lot of it
make
is
some
used to
investments
protect
that
endangered
puts people in,
species. A
and
lot
I
of it is
still
used to protect
want the fact on this,
native
economists.
tribal
Senator Lindsey
lands.
said,
Yeah,
"You know,
absolutely. There's a lot of federal land that needs to be
economists
protected,
are
but there's a
saying
lot that we
that
could
it's
build on.
immigrants
There's a lot that
attacking
we could
the
drill on.
Governor,
I'm pretty sure that we do drill on federal land right now. So let's not pretend that's anything controversial.
There are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part
Bring
of this?
a surplus of
Well,
people
there's
when there
a
was
results
already
study
not
that
enough
we share
housing.
after
That's
the
that's a
debate will
one.
go
That's
up on social media,
obvious.
actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Waltz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can
What do you?
very quickly-
You're running for vice president within 6 months.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. That in some cases, many of those are local, many of them are state.
Have
I
you
don't know
not
which ones
thought
are
outside
federal.
of
I think
Minnesota,
these
Waltz?
regulations,
Come
I
on.
think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress
Wait, I'm
writes
so-
those.
Governor, thank you, gentlemen.
Wait, didn't
We have a lot to get to.
didn't
You're
deeply
passionate about the housing
Democrat
crisis,
New
and I
York,
can tell.
the fucking mayor just got indicted for allowing the Turkish to build without without getting a fire code inspection? Deeply Democrat state, deeply Democrat city, used the mayor of that city was using the bureaucracy to get kickbacks by allowing people to bypass regulations. So clearly the regulation is not entirely working. Having a lot of regulation is not inherently a good thing if it's not being enforced properly, and if it's then just used, you know, to enrich people at the top.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members
Okay,
have,
get into
have gotten
healthcare,
health care. I believe, you know, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid
Yes.
onto private insurance.
Double
for the
down
first
on
time
duplexes.
under
Double
Donald
down on
Trump's leadership. And I think that
larger scale
a lot of
housing, as
people
long
have
as it's not like
criticized this concepts of a plan of remark. I think it's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, you know, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along.
God,
I think
Waltz
it's an
looks
important point
panicked.
about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that that President Trump has ever said or ever done. But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable
Yeah, I mean,
care.
it's
not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better healthcare policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
yeah, I think
All right,
federal.
here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is
That wasn't
I
that
come
long
from
ago.
a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley, 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility.
Stop! It's not about Minnesota.
What I know is, under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to. Go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one,
Waltz
he
doesn't
tried
seem
to
like
sign
he
the
knows these
executive order
issues super
to
well. I
repeal
gotta be
the ACA.
honest here.
He signed on.
He
to
knows
a
about
lawsuit
Trump and he knows
to
about
repeal the
Minnesota.
ACA,
That's
but lost at the Supreme
man,
Court.
he is
And he
floundering
would
due to a
have
lack of
repealed
knowledge
the
on these
ACA
issues.
Had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill. Now, fast
Love John
forward,
McCain.
What that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma,
Don't get mad about a long dead bill, okay? Don't get mad about ACA's done.
Your kids get kicked out
What are we doing now? This is 2024. ACA came out what 2010, 2014, somewhere in that. Was like a decade ago. Obama's been out of office for
most common ones that'll be there. But look,
1.5 presidencies.
and
What,
Donald Trump said,
two presidencies
I got
now?
a
Come
concept
on.
of a plan. It cracked me up as a fourth grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that.
I'm a
But what
teacher.
Senator
I'm the,
Gates
yeah.
just explained
Okay,
might
great.
be worse than a concept. Because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure because guess what happens?
But what are you gonna
It's
do?
not much.
What are you going to do, Waltz? Do you know anything other outside of Minnesota?
Cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Waltz just said is actually
that
not
felt like a
true.
dodge.
A lot of what happened, and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight, is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges.
That's
Donald
true.
Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was
Waltz,
president,
don't agree with
inflation
that.
was low, take-home pay
Waltz!
was higher, and he saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor,
I don't know about Trump's problem-solving ability, but the beginning of that, yeah, I actually agreed
It's
with.
higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece.
Or whatever. No, that's what happened.
Tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well, then
So
what
you
happens
think the
is
individual mandate's a good idea?
you shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works.
Yes,
When it doesn't,
it's
it
true.
collapses. You are asking pre-ACA where we get people out. Look, people know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well, I don't want to buy into Medicare or whatever. Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret?
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about families in America. There is a child care crisis in this country.
No, there's
The
not.
United States is one
Shut
of the
God.
very few
It's not a
developed
child care
countries
crisis. There's a breakdown of the American family
without a
and of
national
American,
paid leave program for new parents.
both the nuclear family and broadly.
You've
There's a
said
breakdown of
that
American
Democrats win
community.
both
There's
White
not,
House and
no,
Congress. This
there's
is
not a
number one
child care
priority for
crisis.
you.
Fucking sick of
How
hearing about
long
this.
should employers be required to pay workers while
They
they're
shouldn't at all.
taking care of their new
That's at the end of this. They shouldn't at all. There's not a child care crisis. There's a community breakdown
But
crisis.
here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for a big company. Look, we're home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. Kamala Harris knows that in California. Those companies provide paid family and medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family and medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time. What we know is that gets the child off to a better start. The family works better.
I mean,
we stay in
yes,
there.
within the
We get
flawed
the
system
business
that we're
system.
here, but like there are
Commerce is
bigger
a
issues
priority.
here.
We implemented it in
There's a
Minnesota,
much
and we
bigger
see
issue here, which is the
become
breakdown of community.
a
Like,
pro
people don't need to be
business
sending their
state.
kids off to fucking
Negotiations on
daycare
it.
every single day.
Those
What
big
kids don't need to be
companies
raised by
operate.
nannies and
Those of
daycare
you out there who
workers.
don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens.
Sorry, I'm
You
like
end
only
up
half
staying
paying
home.
attention to the
In
chat.
some places, that means
But it's
no
not like this-
paycheck
yeah.
because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you,
It's
go
just going to
to
stop people from opening up
families,
businesses.
go
It's
to
one more
businesses,
fucking
and
hurdle
ask them.
people have to
As far as
clear,
child
so you
care
can only
goes,
open up a business if you have a certain amount of money.
supply
Like, you
and
need to have
demand
more
side.
money now to open up a business. It's going to make small business ownership
Take
even
care of
harder.
children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on
I'm
it.
so tired of Minnesota!
Paid family and medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for
I don't.
how long should employers be mandated to pay
They
their
shouldn't.
employees while they are home taking care
It's not
of
an
their
employer's
newborn?
problem. This is a community breakdown
A
problem.
number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats too have worked on this issue, and I think there is a bipartisan solution.
Federal
here.
government is not your
Support
fucking
about this
baby
issue.
daddy.
I mean, look, I speak from this very personally because I'm married to a beautiful woman who's an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator, and I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. These programs only go to one kind of child care model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with child care. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide child care in the way that
Van's
makes the
trying to
most
get
sense.
those
You don't
ideas
have
out there.
access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice.
That also means putting money in church, federal money in church hands. And I don't know about that. I don't know about that. No, I don't know about putting federal money in the hands of churches.
A lot the past 7 or 8 weeks, and one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you.
I think
You
Vance.
also said,
I think he
Vance,
also. I think he
many
also
things about
believes that the
the
Fed
American
shouldn't be involved in
family.
this, but can't
The
say it
Federal
openly.
Reserve
And
says
that's. I'd
most
rather he
will
just say it.
spend nearly as much
I'd
on
rather he be
childcare
open,
as they do on
but
housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts
not a fan.
on this. President Trump recently said,
It was probably the best political answer
as
you could
much
give.
as childcare
I
is
guess.
talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit
How would we
that
pay
you
for it?
have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the
I mean, I'm
economic
for that, but
proposal.
are Republicans going to follow
What Trump
through?
is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue,
And Republicans have frequently sided with billionaires and millionaires. Are they going to have any? Are they going to have any reservations shipping jobs to China? Really? Will they? Will they, Vance?
Can you clarify how
God,
that will
Waltz.
solve the child care shortage?
Well, because as Tim said, a lot of the child care shortage is we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care
Like
options.
churches, yeah,
And
no.
we're gonna have to, unfortunately,
I'm
we're gonna have to
betting,
spend more
and
money.
I don't
We're
just
gonna
want to
have
say like,
increase
oh,
the
the
people
guy
who
on my
provide
side of the
child care
on my
options for
side of the
American
debate
families, 'cause the reason
believes the
it's
way
so
I do.
expensive
I
right
think he
now is
also
because
thinks
you've
that
got way
women
too
should
few
just
people
stay.
providing this
Well,
very essential
more
service.
women should be staying
Thank you,
home,
Senator.
and churches should be
Governor
pitching
Walz,
in, and
your
communities should be
ticket
pitching in.
also has some
But doesn't want to
child
say
care
it because it'd be
tax
too
credit
unpopular.
proposals.
That's where I think
Do
he
you
is
think
politically and
Congress
trying
will
to
agree to the
worm
$6,000
around it.
credit for newborns and $3,000 credit
I don't
for
know how I
children
feel
over
about
the
him
age of
lying about
6,
that. Just be
as
honest,
your
man. Have a
campaign has
platform. Come
promised?
on.
Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's 5,000 or 6,000, that plays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the
Back in
issue
Minnesota.
is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs. That's just adding another $4,000 on the family and taking less. So not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy's growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the state of democracy, the top issue for Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results. Judges, including those appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents,
That's hilarious.
looked at the evidence and said there was no widespread fraud. The governors of every state in the nation, Republicans and Democrats, certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even
Get
if
ready for a
every
dodge.
governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies. Make housing affordable,
Ooh,
make groceries
that was a
affordable,
dodge.
And that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember,
That's not all
he said
Donald
that on
Trump has
January the
said.
6th, The protesters ought to protest
Bullshitter.
peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy.
I'm okay with censoring people who engage in misinformation.
40 years. Now, I'm
Not
really
people who
proud,
who
especially
believe
given that
differently
was
than
raised
I
by two
do.
lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course,
Love Tulsi
they don't
Gabbard.
agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue. But
Dude,
we
I don't
do
blame you for
agree
walking
on
out
the
of this.
basic American
What?
First Amendment principle.
Not really.
That we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship.
Love all of that.
in an industrial
Doesn't mean I'm going to be on
She did
Rumble.
it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues, and that to me is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Governor?
Is that what Trump
I
said
think
on
there was
January
I think
6th?
there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. But
me too, man.
There's one though that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story.
Well,
Donald
do not
Trump
apologize
refused
for getting
to
yourself some
acknowledge
dinner,
the
man.
fact is that
I'm gonna
I think
probably
he could be the frog in the pot
check out for a
before
sec to
we
get
want
dinner,
go
too.
up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he did. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag.
One
some
died.
Later died, and it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state capitol.
In
grounds
Minnesota.
St. Paul,
That-
and said, "We're
every
marching
time
to
he
the
mentions
governor's
Minnesota, I
residence
feel
and
less
maybe
confident about him as a
he went
vice
and then
presidential
put somebody's
candidate.
dog was
Like,
brushed
man.
off crying by state police.
Like, I already thought Kamala was like a
That
weak
issue,
candidate, but like
and
another
Mike Pence
candidate who's
standing
just
there, they were
very.
chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
Man.
Mike Pence made the right decision. So
Mike Pence did
Senator,
make the
it
right
was
decision. You're right.
adjudicated over and
But like,
over
man,
again.
you got to have more to talk about than just
I worked with
Minnesota.
kids long enough to know, and I said, as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win.
As a football really? Come on, man. Stop being so fucking whorish for that, like, for the rural conservative vote. Man, they want it bad.
The idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying
Imprisoning
the
your political
groundwork
what?
for people not
Come
accepting
on,
this.
man. Don't.
And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election.
It sucks, but it's also like old news at this point, man. That was
in the
20.
same boat. I will
That was
tell
like
you
what,
this,
4 years ago?
when this is
Like,
over,
it sucks.
we need
I
to
hate it
shake
too,
hands
but like,
this
we're
election,
here, and you got to be able to
and
defeat
take
Trump
over.
with
This has
words,
got to
not
stop.
with.
It's tearing our
Look at
country
that
apart.
thing he did 4 years ago. I don't like that we're in that
Senator Vance,
state,
did you wanna
but you
respond to
got to be able to
Look,
beat
Senator,
him.
First of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen.
That
by
is true.
Vladimir Putin
Democrats
because the
were
Russians
way,
stole like
way less
$500,000
cordial about
worth of
losing
Facebook
in
ads.
2016
This
than they
has
make
been
out.
going on
Don't
for
get mad at
years.
it, Waltz.
If we
Don't
want to
make
say
that
we
fucking
need to
face,
respect
Waltz.
the
You
results
know
of
it's
the
true.
election, I'm all
Democrats
for
were
it.
petty
What I
bitches for
wanna
4
say is
years
Tim
before
Walz said
January
this is
6th
just a
happened.
problem
That is
Republicans
true.
have had. I don't buy that.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that
You spent 4 years kicking a hornet's nest, and then the hornets came out and hit you. Like, I don't like. I'm never going to fucking defend January 6th. January 6th was unacceptable, but like, that is what happened. That's what the Democrats did. You poked a sleeping bear for 4 years,
We've seen that.
and then
We've
you
seen that.
you fucked around, and then you found out.
Everyone today.
That's what
And
happened.
I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want. to
Waltz
hear.
is very on the
And I think
defensive.
there's a lot of agreement. This is one that we are miles apart on.
Yeah, it's just
This was a threat to
ew,
our democracy
God.
in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say.
It wasn't
He is
just
still
Trump.
saying
Trump does
he
not
didn't
exist
win
in a
the election. I just said,
vacuum.
did he lose the 2020 election?
He did.
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their minds?
Dodge,
in the wake of the
dodge,
2020
dodge.
situation?
That is
Has she tried to-
that is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the
threatening,
power
hate
of
speech.
government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy.
Zuckerberg did come forward and say and apologize to Trump, which is very interesting. That is, there is some truth to what he's saying, but also they're both dodging.
Afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't
Senator,
wear
the
masks.
governor does
That's
have
not
the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to
Please.
respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this.
Clinton
He
also
lost the
refused.
election. This is not
Not as bad as
debate.
Trump.
It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence
Pence
isn't
did the
on
right thing.
stage. What I'm concerned about is where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he
Our
knows
institutions?
he could do
The
anything,
institutions did
including
hold last time,
taking an election?
but you have to be able to actually beat him. You have to actually have a good candidate. If Kamala is under threat of losing to Trump, that's your fucking problem. Have a better candidate.
Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that. Because of course that's what we would do.
I'm
So
Tim
America,
Waltz, and
I
I'm
think
running
you've
for
got a
president of
really
Minnesota.
clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with
Ooh.
both of our candidates. The CBS News Vice
Ooh.
Presidential debate
Ooh.
continues.
This is interesting. This is like way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. This is fascinating. This is fascinating. Oh my god. This is God damn, this is absolutely fascinating. This is way more fascinating than I thought it was going to be. Probably shouldn't have like all my social media accounts. Maybe I'll switch this on real fast rather than having all my social media accounts openly. But I'm gonna like repost this a couple places because I like want some people to join in. Like holy shit. Like this is crazy. This is Oh, yeah. Oh, if they had a sane Republican on, I've said before, like, if Donald Trump were, like, a 25% better candidate, he would be burying Kamala. Burying her. Honestly. But Trump is a fucking idiot who can't get his shit together. And now he's fucking losing. Yeah, no, this is fucking sad. This is genuinely fucking sad. Oh, I just saw you reposted the stream. Thank you. In the Discord. Thank you for that. This is damn, Vance is kind of kicking ass. Like, I don't even like Vance. I did not go into this debate with any positive feelings toward Vance at all. But man, like he's kind of killing it right now. He's kind of kicking ass. And Waltz is really struggling. Like, I mean, ultimately they are the VPs though. Like that's the ultimate thing. They are not the headliners here. It doesn't really matter. Or does it though? I mean, that's what I find so interesting about like where American politics is headed right now, because you have like the main headliners, Trump and Kamala, are like faceless peons. They're nothing. They're absolutely nothing. But then you look at like who's supporting them. Like in the case of Kamala, it's all ticket balancers. It's all like an attempt to let's grab this base and this base. Let's grab the rural conservative vote and let's grab the Indian vote and let's grab the black vote. And like it's all. But then on Trump's side, you know, I have mixed feelings on RFK, but Gabbard and Vance and like a lot of like, especially post the assassination attempt and now post second assassination attempt, a lot of the more competent Republicans are popping up out of the woodwork and going back and like actually being willing to work with Trump now, as opposed to the Democrats were like the competent Democrats who are, yes, crazed ideologues like AOC and Bernie, but also like they are the competent ones who believe in something. They're dropping like flies. They don't like Kamala. Like AOC has openly said she didn't want Kamala to be the fucking president. She didn't want her to be the candidate. So like, I find this a really interesting trajectory for American politics. Yeah, Vance sucks. I don't. It's just Diddy Kamala. I know nothing about Diddy and Kamala. I've read cursory stuff about the Diddy situation, and it only depresses me. I'd rather just see him behind bars. It's sick shit, man. Like fucking sick. I don't know anything about what they're doing. I know that if Vance wants the Republican Party to be taken seriously politically, he needs to stop spreading stupid crap on fucking X. Social media mogul X. Not Twitter. No one still calls it Twitter. He needs to stop doing that if he wants the party to be taken seriously. But this is fascinating. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I gotta do that fucking Midwest ope, don't I? Yeah, of course.
Welcome back to the CBS News vice presidential debate. It is now time for the closing statement. Senator Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So, Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built. From Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift. And a whole bunch of folks in between there.
Got to do some name drops.
They all agree on everything.
They gave him that bite.
They are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this
something
country,
joy.
And one where our politics can be
something about joy.
It is. And I have to tell you, that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something. Not the freedom of...
I don't know. I hear a lot of moral grandstanding from the left, but I don't hear a lot of concrete policy when I see these debates.
Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou
yeah, he sucks.
said,
Trump sucks. How are you losing to him this badly? How is Trump even still a threat? How have you not crushed him?
Spent 4 years trying to maybe do that.
Dude, you fucking Cheney, man.
Clear. He will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing
there's the fucking joy line.
Middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that.
Kamala Harris is a fucking empty suit and a pair of shoulder pads. Kamala Harris ain't jack shit.
Heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as
he's copying from Kamala's playbook in that
we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that too has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse.
We're talking
I
about Dick
believe
Cheney.
that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we
thank
have
you.
the greatest country, the most beautiful country. The most
That video has really been doing
people
pretty
in
well,
the
yeah.
world.
It's
But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say, I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day.
interesting. Wow. But yeah, welcome in. I also want to say thank you, because I know we've got at least one half of the mod team from the Discord here. I was like super impressed when I opened up the Discord in the wake of my EV video and was just like, oh, like there's just a great conversation about EV ownership and it's the state of the United States that was just happening there without me even being involved. Can I just say thank you for that? That was amazing to just like go and look at and just be like, I got members of my community just having debates about stuff that I talked about that are interesting and thought-provoking. Thank you for that. That is fucking amazing. I love that. But yeah, I guess we're out of this now. This debate was far more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I have to say, I did not expect a debate, the vice presidential debate, to be this interesting. Trump gets wiped. I've heard that a lot. I have. Yeah, Vance did perform. He performed way better than I thought he was going to. And like, even speaking as someone who is conservative, I did not expect Vance to do this well. I have mixed feelings about it because at the end of the day, like as far as like, even like being conservative, as far as like Republicans, Republican leadership, and the Republican Party itself as a system, who knows if they're going to follow through? Like, are they actually going to rebuild American domestic manufacturing? Who knows? That's the real question I have. You know, it's just, are they actually going to follow through on the things that they want? That's the real question. And you have so many fucking conspiracies. Let's roll. We're rolling right past. I don't know. I will say I was surprised the number of times, and suddenly Waltz's promotion, him being the VP pick, suddenly snaps. Do I have this ticket? Yeah, I don't blame you. No, like, to be clear, I don't blame anyone who chooses not to vote for Trump. I don't have any, no judgment, no ill will. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm not expecting, I don't know, especially in the wake of Kamala getting this groundswell and managing to hold it far longer than I think anyone thought she was going to. I don't blame anyone for not wanting to vote for Trump. No, never. Absolutely never. Never blame anyone not wanting to vote for Trump. I don't know. We'll see. This is very, very interesting. This was, I wish they had gotten more into policy stuff. I really, really wish they had gotten more into policy stuff, but it is very, very interesting. I don't know. As far as Trump getting wiped, I don't know if that's going to happen. The real question that's going to define this election, I think, is who can get more young people into the fucking polling booths. I think that's going to be the deciding factor, you know? Like, both sides are trying to appeal to a really distinct body of young people, you know? Trump is getting sneakers made for him and NFTs, and Kamala is going, the hard in the abortion debate, and going for the TikTok crowd. They're both going for a very specific group of young people as well as the common base. So I don't know. I'm not willing to go like gung ho Trump. Wait, is there a way for me to put the chat on screen? I don't know how to do anything. We'll talk about it later. I'm not. Vance did way better than I thought he was going to. Just this. Yeah, Vance did way better than I thought he was going to. Way better than I thought he was going to. But we'll see. I'm still not willing to be gung-ho like, yeah, let's vote for Trump. No, he's still Trump at the end of the day. This debate gives me a lot of hope for conservative leadership and Republican leadership long term, as does, having RFK and Tulsi. But then again, there's been a lot of shakeups. I mean, Dick Cheney also went to the Dems and is formally, endorsing Kamala, I believe. He is officially endorsing her over Trump, which is interesting. So there's been a lot of shakeups. So it could end up being just sort of like a lateral move overall. It may end up not even actually mattering. But man, I'm not willing to say, yeah, Elon is he pro-Trump or is he pro-Kamala? I generally don't know. I assume Trump, given the state of Twitter currently and how much, I don't. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. It could very much end up being I've heard a lot of Trump's going to get the floor wiped with him. I've heard a lot of that, and I think that is a realistic possibility. But the problem is, man, I heard that in 2016. I heard that with Hillary. And at this point, Trump's kind of out of gas compared to 2016. He's not where he was, obviously. He's not trolling the way he was then. He's not getting that. I don't know. We'll have to, man, this has been a far more fascinating night than I thought it was going to be, which is very, very interesting. I am excited though. Like I said, I'm excited for both sides. An ideal outcome for me, I also think my microphone's a little too close because I'm very loud. An ideal outcome for me is always that both sides are driven to put forth great candidates. Both sides are driven to put forth great ideas and great candidates, but at the same time, we're neither presidential candidate is a great candidate. They both strive to barely break into mediocre, Well, but as far as the leadership behind the guy, I gotta say, I'm leaning long term. I'm leaning toward the conservatives. I'm leaning toward, the Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, and Elon and Zuck also went and apologized to Trump, which, I mean, God knows Facebook is dying and needs to appeal to its Gen X audience, so who knows how much of him telling Trump that he apologizes for covering things up is just him trying to appeal to that audience who are the main body of Facebook users these days. But I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of contrarian sentiment that played into Trump's 2016 win as well, which he doesn't really have now. Now it's weird. Kamala is kind of the contrarian one now in a weird way. You really feel that with the brat thing. That sentiment. You really feel how Kamala is kind of is being seen as the contrarian, which is very strange. I think they've both said they don't want to do taxes on tips. We'll see if anything happens. I did see the overtime thing with Trump, but I think that was years ago. I wasn't, if you saw, I watched the Jon Stewart not coverage, but his video he put out, the TV production, and there was a small bit that he put on YouTube. Yeah, that he took a lot of old clips. I'm pretty sure both sides are saying they're pro no taxes on tips, who's willing to actually, like, follow through on it? Who knows? Yeah. No, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's weird to me that Kamala has become the contrarian sentiment and Trump is, like, mainstream. Isn't that weird, though? Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. You're totally, yes, like, there is an argument that, like, conservative values are the norm in the United States because, like, let's be honest here, like, conservative values, like, the world is far more conservative than I think it's often painted by American government. Yes, we need trains. Yes, we always need trains, but, like, no taxes on tips would be good. There's no reason to be taxing, like, the lowest rung of the economic ladder. That's fucking ridiculous. We're not going to build trains. We're not going to lose the ability to build trains by taxing the lowest rung of the economic ladder. But it is like there is an argument that traditionally conservative values have been the norm in the United States and in a lot of places, and that the left and liberal ideology, the reason it's called liberal ideology and conservative ideology is called conservative ideology, is because the left is traditionally the contrarian one. But it's very interesting that now we're seeing that kind of go back to it, because post-Obama, what we really saw was the liberal ideology becoming the norm. And this is not in any way me speaking about the quality of Obama's presidency in any way, shape, or form, but that's what seemed to happen. Like, in the wake of him taking office, liberal ideology became the norm. He was like that big, he was that force who could turn it mainstream. But now it seems it's flipped. It's very strange. Now it's flipping back to normal. It's weird that we're getting back to, like, how things were, in the Cheney years for a long time in the United States. It's interesting. Well, let me see here. Oh, I believe it. Yeah, the taxes have just gotten ridiculous. Like, that's part of why I'm always worried about Kamala's constant, like, we need an extra $6,000 to do this, and people should get $25,000 to do that. And it's like, but how are you going to pay for that? Like, this is part of why I forget if this was on stream or if this was when I was in, I watched the first part of the debate in Art Chad's stream. And then some dude, like, pulled out a gun, and it was really weird, so I don't know if I'm going to do that again. But it was getting cool to be a part of it, watching with his community, though. But I worry every single, what was I saying? I'm scatterbrained today. I find it interesting that the Dems are just constantly like, we need to throw money at this, we need to throw money at that, and we need to like give money to this and give money to that, and it's like, how are we going to pay for any of this? I don't know. Let me see. I mean, yeah, no, you're right about that. I mean, America's probably not going to do great in the next 4 years either way, but we can mitigate that by hopefully, again, the ideal situation is always that both sides are pressured to put forth a good candidate. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Seems like the left has just sort of been like, we can put forward a mediocre, empty suit and they can beat Trump. And the really, really sad thing is, I have a funny feeling that part of the reason they chose Kamala is that the fact that, she could lose, oh my God, like, what could happen, is going to bring in campaign dollars. If they put in someone who would just crush Trump, if they put in a young, likable liberal, who they would destroy Trump, they would obliterate him, they would annihilate Trump. But they didn't want to do that because that wouldn't bring in as many campaign donations. And that's what really sucks about Kamala being a candidate. That really sucks. That really fucking sucks. That really hurts, knowing that. Because, God. If they put forth an actual candidate, they would just crush Trump and be done with it. But they're not going to do that. They need the campaign donations. Every fucking day on my Instagram, it's always like, hey, I'm Tim Waltz, and just $3, can make a difference here. Or it's Kamala saying, we are so close to our fundraising goal. Like, during the fucking, what was it, up in Chicago, the Democrat presidential, not primary, whatever it was, the big campaign event in Chicago a few weeks ago. That whole fucking week, I don't know if it was just because I'm in Illinois, but that whole fucking week, my Instagram feed was just clogged with Harris debates. We're so close to meeting our daily goal. We're so close to meeting our weekly goal. We're so close to meeting our goal by the end of our fundraising deadline by the end of this campaign event. What do you fucking need my money for? What do you fucking need my money for? You could have put forth a young, charismatic, liberal candidate who would have crushed Trump. Crushed him. He's an old man. He's out of gas. But you didn't fucking do that. You didn't fucking do that. You put forth this wibbly, oh, I'm here for your dreams, whatever fucking Kamala stands for nonsense, and she could lose. Why? Why? How could you lose to Trump? I don't even fucking like Trump. This is just insane. But they don't want to put forth, but they couldn't, but they wouldn't have brought in the campaign donations if they just crushed him and were done with it. This is, you know what's funny? This is kind of like what I was saying with the wars, with like, having Ukraine just win tomorrow wouldn't get that long-term contract for selling bombs, letting Israel just win tomorrow. I'm not saying I want Israel to win, by the way. But just having them do, but I'm speaking to the incentives that are causing our country to act the way it is in the background, giving them the bomb to just do it tomorrow, having it just be a guarantee. Oh no, that'd be too easy. We got to make sure we get those long-term contracts and we're benefiting, it has to be a quagmire because that's a more profitable state. Has to be a stalemate. It has to be, oh, who's going to take it? Who knows? Got to be worried. Got to have our hands in 6 pots. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? We need send in your campaign donations now. Every fucking time. And I'm fucking tired of this. Just put forward a good candidate and crush Trump and be done with it. They couldn't fucking do that. They didn't want to fucking do that. That says everything about these fucking people. That's why I don't fucking trust the Democratic Party. I got nothing against people who believe in the party or who believe in liberalism. I got no problem with liberals. I have a problem with the Democratic system. And I got problems with the Republican system too. But I at least like this debate, seeing the guy behind the guy. There's a lot of very smart youth. Well, there's more youth. I have more faith in where the Republican Party is going long term. I don't have as much trust, but it seems like in the Democratic Party, they're kind of alienating their young Democratic leadership, Like, what's her face, AOC and her squad aren't doing super hot right now, even among Democrats. They're pretty unpopular. They're known as the fucking, the crazies. They're getting ostracized, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because AOC is a fucking crazy ideologue, but at the same time, also, I should probably make sure that's entirely closed so I don't dox myself by accident. Not that there's anything out there probably to see. It's night. But this is just crazy. God, this is just crazy. Like, you could crush Trump if you just put a good candidate, but they don't want to fucking do that. Don't want to fucking do that. Wouldn't bring in the campaign donations. Probably billions of dollars. That kind of makes me worried now because, like, in the next election, without Trump, are they just going to have to frame the next guy as being the next Trump? How are they going to, like, if the Republicans put forth a young, charismatic candidate, who is better than Trump, how are Democrats even going to respond? They don't have anything other than bashing Trump, And, like, Trump doesn't have anything other than bashing Kamala. But, like, the people behind him do. Gabbard does. Like, some of those, I've seen some of the interviews with Gabbard, and she is a statesman. I don't know much about her policy. I do, and about her record being an actual, I believe she was a senator from Hawaii, or a congresswoman. There's probably only 2 of each. But, yeah, it's just, what in the hell are you putting in chat? What the fuck is this? You should buy the venomous toad from a transsexual. You should buy anything that a transsexual sends you. Absolutely everything. Yeah, you should buy everything. You should always buy toads. Always buy toads, and you always buy from transsexuals. Those are both hard rules. So it's a win-win, obviously. Abso-fucking-lutely, yeah. Oh.
Does anyone want to teach me how to put chat on screen? Does anyone care to do that? If not, that's fine. But like this has been way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. This has been vastly more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I did not think this was going to be. Maybe let's just look into the actual. Yeah, whatever. This is fascinating. God. Stream elements? No. I don't have. Ah, God. I need a lot of stuff to do like proper streaming. I am an absolute. Not quite a Luddite. Like I'm somewhat tech savvy, but I don't spend a lot of time online. I've never used Twitch or any of those. So like I don't really watch streamers either. I stream because people find it entertaining watching me rant about stuff. And Creamy, I swear to God, you make one more fucking Black Tim Pool reference, I'm gonna fucking smack the taste out of your mouth. Don't you fucking dare. Raised in a Republican. Oh yeah, hard Christian. My mother was of the belief that Halloween was, and I quote, multiple times, of Satan. Oh yeah, that's the household I came from, and I have something of an odd relationship to the political policy, to the political different viewpoints, because I came from like bumfuck nowhere, Illinois, and was raised around mostly. I am, if you couldn't tell, someone who is coming from that world, painfully obvious, painfully aware of the problems facing a lot of those communities, both the poverty as well as the racism. Oh yeah, very puritanical. Yeah, I'm very much aware of the issues within those communities. Yeah, my household was pretty extreme because my mother was a single mom who, God bless her, worked her ass off, but also was not. Her mind was not always entirely there, and she swung hard Christian Puritan. At least for me, at least for her, at least for the son, not the daughter. But yeah, it was. I am someone who is very, very aware of the issues plaguing, the areas of the United States where conservatism is deeply rooted, the rural communities, and even a lot of black communities, a lot of Hispanic communities, which are turning more and more conservative by the day. Like, it's not talked about by the Dems enough, like, as an actual, not a problem, but like as something that they need to be acknowledging, that the black and Latino communities are turning more and more red by the day. They are alienating those communities little by little. Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right about stress. That was absolutely part of why. It was sad to see, but also, again, God bless her, she worked her ass off. But I've also seen, I also come from a college town, and I've been around college people. I've also been around professors. You are right about that. Latin America and Africa are the future of Christendom. For better and worse, we'll see how it goes. But I've seen the problems of both but not extreme left, but like I've seen the problems of the intellectual, college-educated left who dominate current leftism. I've seen the many, many issues of the anti-intellectual, trigger the libs Christian right. I've seen the worst of both, and that's ultimately my takeaway, is that both sides are being dominated by a small cabal who have become problematic because they're too entrenched. But again, I have faith that like the Conservative Party seems to be going in the right direction. Like, and even in terms of like here on YouTube, it's like Catholics. Yes, no. Black religiosity is on the rise. Like, abso-fucking-lutely. A lot of it is because like the representation of black people in media is a very complicated topic, and I always feel I never want to go quite it's degenerate, because I know that attracts the wrong type. It attracts a lot of bad actors who just want to slam the black community, and that's really unfortunate because it impairs our ability to have a really nuanced conversation about it. That just sucks. But it is true that because of how black people are represented in media and on social media in general, it is causing like the ground level black and Latino communities to swing hard conservative. BET has a mixed track record at best. The really sad thing is that BET isn't even necessarily the problem, because at least BET is for the most part black owned. Not even close. I'm not BET. That's like saying Comedy Central is the voice of white America. Like, yeah, it was at one point, but like, the TV is a dying network. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it's sad to see. It's sad to see conservatism being written off. There was such a distinct and justifiably critiqued point in conservatism here in the United States, where, especially during Trump's presidency, where it was justified, like going after conservatives, because I think that was the height at like Trump's trolling, it was really justified. But like, now it seems like the left is kind of leaning on that, or at least the democratic system itself, like the Democratic Party, like the system, not like the people who just engage in the ideology. Now it seems like they really want to demonize the right in a way that's become kind of unfair, and that's unfortunate. And they shouldn't do that, because now a lot of like genuine issues are being brought up, and they're trying to sweep them under the rug. And it's not going to go well, because a lot of those things being swept under the rug now are not just like sweep the stupid like eating the cats memes whatever under the rug and call the conservatives stupid for doing that, because they were. But like when they bring up stuff like, how are you going to pay for the expanded child tax credit? How are you going to pay to give every single young American $25,000 to pay for a home? When people bring that up, you got to answer those questions. You got to be willing to do that. But like, the Democrats are just not willing to. And like, all throughout this debate, all I kept fucking hearing the entire fucking time from Walt was just, back in Minnesota, back in Minnesota, I don't care about Minnesota. This is federal level. This is bigger shit. You're swimming in a bigger pond now. It doesn't feel like they even briefed him on half these issues. I'm not even sure he knew what was going on. Like, it seemed like he was just trying to like lean on that, I'm just a Minnesota good old boy, which I'm sure, he's a vice presidential candidate. He's a ticket balancer. I'm sure that's exactly what they wanted him to do. That's probably what they briefed him and probably what they prepped him to do. That's exactly what they want. But at the same time, it's like, you need more than that, man. You need more. Like, you need to be able to actually respond to questions now. Like, we are past the point where conservatives are just saying stupid crap to trigger the libs. There are real questions being asked now about gun control and about abortion and about and to be clear, I feel compelled every single time, because I know abortion is coming up a lot, because it is actually like a really big topic, to the point that we can't just pretend it doesn't exist anymore. That's the sad reality. If anyone wants to know my personal take on abortion, I will give it out there just to make certain no one can ever put words in my mouth. But I am someone who is pro free and open abortion access, because I think that hindering it, much like the birth control pill, will only cause rifts between mothers and children. Like, if a mother has to have a kid knowing abortion could possibly have been on the table, I think it'll cause a rift. I think it would cause that mother to always kind of resent her own kid in that way. And like, coming from impoverished Rust Belt, I've seen it happen. It's not based on a statistic. That is what I have seen happen. I've seen it in families. I've seen it in the way that moms look at their kids, and it's horrible. And that's why I don't like banning abortion. But at the same time, there are two caveats there. Number one, that does not mean that I do not acknowledge that there are other cultural centers in the United States that feel differently, and I am okay with turning it over to the states so they can have their own choice for that. Thank you, yeah. Like, I'm still okay with other states being able to come up with their own solutions here. I'm still pro that. I'm still fine with that. Like, I think the way that Republicans went about turning it over to the states was shitty, like getting Merrick Garland's delayed in order to get a get someone on the not allowing Obama to get Merrick Garland onto the Supreme Court and delaying that until Trump was in office so they could get someone who was okay with their stance on abortion. That was not okay. That was not okay for Republicans to do. But at the same time, it's like, rare. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Totally. Absolutely. Like, abso-fucking-lutely. Like, remember when Democrats were running on abortions being rare? I fucking remember that. Yeah, I fucking remember that. Oh, we gotta check out this other one. Yes. 100% agree. Like, you know what's even further than that? I remember growing up as a young man throughout a lot of the 2000s, like, just how much, like, the idea of teen pregnancy, like, I came out of high school like terrified of it. Like it was almost like that joke scene from Mean Girls, you know, where it's like, if you have sex, you will get pregnant and you will die. Now everyone take a condom. You know, the gym teacher. It's almost like that happened. But the thing that made me think that was seeing teen pregnancy so represented all the time as this cataclysmic thing in media. It's like, yes, teen pregnancy is bad, and yes, I want women to have the option to do whatever they want and to live their lives and have a career if they so choose. Abso-fucking-lutely. But, like, the way it was pushed as, like, this, like, oh my God, like, teen pregnancy. Like, as a man, like, I was, like, scared. I was scared of it, man. Like, and, like, now, surprise, surprise, we're in this state where, like, people are scared to have kids because, like, I'm going to fuck them up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, oh my God, if I'm ever a parent, I'm going to be horrible. It's like, all parents fuck up their kids. I'm not saying that's a good thing. But, like, all parents fuck up their kids. You know, you do your best. You know? And I'm totally with you on that. We need to fundamentally change the way people look at parenthood in the United States. And, you know, as much as I think J.D. Vance is still a fucking sleazebag, I will say, the one time where I'm like, where I will say he artfully dodged a question was when he was asked about federal payments for, what was it? Like nanny services, childcare. Yeah. Like, on a fundamental level, we don't need to be handing kids off en masse to daycare workers. Like, it's not like the daycare issue, the child, like the issue of children not having places to go is not an issue of the federal government needs to give people more money to support childcare. Like, that we don't, building a bigger, more involved, more, like, building a bigger childcare industry is not the solution here. That's not it. It's not giving more money to these companies. These are corporations. These are major corporations who want to see their market share go up, you know? That is something that the Dems are really, really quick to dismiss. It's just sad. Oh, God. Defending motherhood. You're right about that. If they were just smart enough, put a woman out there. Put a woman out there defending states' rights as far as abortion access. Put a woman on camera defending it. It would change everything. I think young liberal women would abandon ship en masse. En masse. If they got the right conservative woman out there speaking about abortion and about family planning in the United States. Don't make it some fucking corporate sleazebag like Trump or Vance. Because that's how Vance comes across. He's a fucking scumbag. Like, he comes across like he has this something about him that's just slimy, you know? Like, I don't want to knock the guy personally, but like, yeah, there's something about him that's just slimy. Like, it's just, you feel it on him, right? Like, Liz, what is it with you? Stop the fucking Cheneys. It's just something slimy about the guy, you know? I just got the joke. Fuck you. There's just something slimy, but like, if you put a woman out there talking about abortion, why has the Republican Party not been smart enough to do that? Why? Why are they so stupid? I truly think things with family planning have gotten so bad and so dire for young women who increasingly, much like young men, don't feel like they have a future. You know, that's something that's been totally missed here. Young women en masse are feeling like they don't have a future. As much as young men, you know? You stop with the fucking Cheneys. Young women are feeling the squeeze here, and like the inability to just put a woman out there to make these points, you know? Like Trump's point about I remember this from the presidential debate specifically, saying that it was brave to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is very debatable. But if you had a woman saying that, it would have come across fundamentally differently. And obviously in that debate, you couldn't do that. But like, for the love of God, where's Vance's wife? You know, why isn't she doing more stuff? Why isn't she, I mean, she's raising his kids. She's raising her kids, his family, her family. She is raising their family. Like, why can the Republican Party not put a woman out there to talk about abortion? Like, if you did that, I think a lot of young liberal women would abandon ship en masse. I truly do. Like, a lot of young liberal women would abandon, even the most staunch abortion defenders would abandon. There are a lot of them who would abandon en masse if there was just a motherly, a strong, conservative woman who openly said this. I truly do. I know me talking about this is useless. You know, I'm a guy. There's no point in me talking about this. This is a debate that has to be settled between women and other women. I've said it from fucking day one. The abortion debate has got to be settled between women and other women. This is a stealth war between liberal and conservative women. And there's a lot of men in between. There's a lot of men making statements, but this is about women. This is their issue, and they got to settle it. You know? This is just... Well, there's definitely... Republican Party still definitely has at the very... In the hierarchy, yeah, there's still... I think there's definitely still a no women pastors. No women leading the church mindset, which is really unfortunate. Because I am someone who firmly believes that the antithesis of having a well-run state is banning anyone from office or from positions of power because of race, gender, ethnicity, such and such. You know, that you want to have the best people and you want to be open to taking the best people no matter where they're from or who they are. That's important. At the same time, do I think statistically are most of those power slots going to be filled by women? No. I think that's a reality that can be acknowledged, but also we should be okay with having them. But Republicans are still very much in the mindset of Reagan. You know, it's still like the Republican Party still has not progressed mentally past Reagan. They're still stuck in the last time they had like a great leader, because, you know, there were a lot of quiet ones after that. Who are the big Republicans after that? You know, Bush is kind of looked back on as, you know, Cheney's... I'm going to bring it back to fucking Cheney. As, like, Cheney's boy toy. And H.W. was boring. Which he was for a reason. I mean, he was former head of the fucking CIA. Republican Party. I would fucking love that! You know what I want? You know what my dream YouTube crossover is? I want to see fucking shoe-on-head Brett Cooper. I want to see that. I want... Oh my god, I watched her last video where she was like, what was it? She was, oh my god, that infernal joke that she made. Oh, a man couldn't make that joke and get away with it. I love Shu. I love Shu because she makes those jokes that, like, men could not. Could not. That whole, because I remember, like, really specifically, there was, like, talking about the phenomenon of young men dating older women. And specifically, it was, like, there was this older woman who was like, I can't get pregnant and that makes me better. And Shu was like, oh, yeah, infertility, sexy. I'm just repeating the joke here. I'm repeating that joke. That's not me. Sorry to touch the microphone. That's me just repeating the joke. I would never say anything along those lines. I couldn't get away with that. But that's so funny. And I also love the idea of Shu getting labeled as a Republican. Because isn't she a literal socialist? Isn't she actually a socialist? Like, literally, like... That's the hilarious part of this, you know? That's where we're getting in terms of the parties now. It's the party of the entrenched, bureaucratic, relentlessly bureaucratic status quo, and the party of those who want to get shit done. That's ultimately where these lines are being drawn now. That's why even fucking AOC said she didn't support Kamala, because that's what that party's becoming under Kamala. I wouldn't even say under Kamala. Kamala is, as I have always said, an empty suit and a fucking pair of shoulder pads. That's all she ever fucking was. It's just, yeah. I don't even know. Maybe. I don't know. So I guess socialism is pretty diverse. I don't know. I also think it's probably not worth putting people into too many categories, you know? And like I said, at the end of the day, the really funny part about all of this is that despite what divides us, despite Shu on Head being a socialist, you know, despite AOC being on the left, despite Vance being a guy who formally said that he didn't like Trump, despite me being someone who didn't like Trump, I still don't like Trump. Trump sucks. If Trump were a 25% better candidate, he'd be crushing Kamala. Despite all of that, we're on the same side. RFK's on our side. Tulsi Gabbard. Because at the end, that is the way things are shifting. It is the people who truly want change, who truly want something different than the rule of the entrenched bureaucracy, the rule of the deep state, versus those who don't. That's where the lines are being drawn. You know? And my hope is that that the left. I have hope that the entrenched Republican Party is going in the right direction on that, is becoming the party of being anti-status quo, anti the entrenched bureaucracy, leading silently from the shadows in Washington, D.C.'s buried deep in the swamp of D.C. The Republican Party is the party positioning itself as being anti-that, and I like that. My hope is that we also get a lot of big names within the Democratic Party saying the same thing, also saying that they don't want to be part of that state. And we end up with two states, with two political systems who both are anti-that and present their viewpoints to one another and to the American people as coherently as they can. And we get true debate, true ideology back. That's ideal here. For the left and the right. Ideally, we all get to a point where we all have well-formed ideologies that we can present and truly give to the American people. And it's not just, well, that side, if they get in power, they're going to do this. Well, what do you think? Well, if they get in power, they're going to do this. You know? I don't want that shit. I don't want that shit. But I think the right's heading. I think the Republican Party is headed in the right direction. I do, because they might be rallying around Trump, but there is a growing sentiment that Trump is a stepping stone to a better, more well-developed Republican Party further down. You know, and even looking at I think I was getting into this earlier. Looking at the social media presences of people on different sides. You know, like when I look at prepare yourselves, gentlemen. This might get controversial. When I look at the people who are openly political on social media and who I think is going to be around in 10 years, number one on that list, Brett Cooper. Like Brett Cooper's on that list, Shu on Head's on that list. You know, who's openly political on the right who I think is still going to be around in 10 years? Vosh? No. No. Vosh ain't going to be around in 5 years. He'll get canceled before that for his fucking weird-ass fucking pedophile takes. Who else isn't going to be around? What's his face? Who's the Marxist with the Gucci bag? Whatever his fucking... Hassan or Hassan? Whatever. He's not going to be around. He's already too controversial. He's alienating the left itself. He's not going to be around in 10 years as a big political power player, if he ever arguably was. I mean, he's just a guy who plays video games at the end of the day, which is fine. I'm not knocking him for that. Fucking be that. But, like, as someone who can influence politics, I don't think he's going to be around. I mean, as far as, like, the women on the side of, like, social media who are openly political, fucking Chad never evolved past being girl in a bad wig who talks to a camera, which is fine if that's her brand, but, like, I don't know if she's going to be someone who influences the next generation on social media. But when I look at someone like Brett Cooper, and I'm like, yeah, that's someone who's going to influence the next generation. That's someone who brings that professionalism. And I'm not saying I agree with the politics, agree or disagree with the politics of any person, any individual that I'm mentioning. But I'm saying as far as who brings the professionalism, who brings that attitude of, I'm going to still be here in 10 years. I'm still going to be a public figure with a coherent belief system, with someone, you know, in 10 years. I think of the right, you know? There's another one, too. There's a couple more, too, on the right who are young, you know? I think of the young right. Oh, yeah, my number of chatters just dropped. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, when I think of who I think is still going to be around, who's still going to be influencing the political landscape in 10 years, I gotta say, the young right. And that's not me agreeing with them at all. That's not me agreeing with them. But I do. Like, I think that's where we're headed. And I think that's a reality that, like, the left should acknowledge. And, like, if they want to have their ideology out, you know, out there, they should start consolidating that. Like, get some, like, get some professionals with some true coherent ideology, you know, and put them on camera with, like, with a set, with, you know, professionalize it, you know, make their ideology coherent, you know. The left needs to do more if they want to survive. Not survive, but, like I said before, we're getting to a point. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just rambling now. Which is, yeah, that's what I'm doing. But, like, it's just, I don't think that a future where the Conservative Party, the Republican Party, where conservative ideology is out there unchecked is better. Something? Okay, thank you. I am glad to know that. I am glad to know. I do worry about that. I don't think, like I said, I don't think that a future where conservative ideology is dominant is necessarily better, because it will then also be doomed to decay in the same way that we've seen leftist ideology decay after Obama was out of office and after Hillary failed, and now they're just nothing more than ranting about Trump, you know? I don't think that's any better. I don't think it would be any better to have, you know, conservatives being unchecked in the political landscape. You know, so I do hope that the left can get their fucking act together, have that sense of professionalism, not just, but like I said, when I look at, like, the social media influencers who are willing to be openly political, as well as being willing to be, you know, like, the best comparison I could have is, like, you know, being a niche musician, but also being a pop musician, you know? You know, like in music, you have those musicians who cover both, like, who are respected within a subgenre or a genre, but also they can make music for a mass audience, you know? Those, but in a political landscape, you know, those who can make content for a wide audience, but also can hit that targeted buzzer, you know, hit that target audience. When I see those, and I think the ones who are going to still be around in 5 years, it's the ones on the right, you know, that's who I see. And, like, again, like, the left needs to get its fucking act together, you know, because I don't think that just unchecked conservative power would be better either. I would love to see a world where the left makes its views known and we can actually like have good debates. Like that's the kind of traditional conservative I truly am at the end of the day. That's the tradition I love the most, is let's have a system where we both can have strong ideas and throw them out there. Like have that clashing of ideas in the open air. I would love to see that. Whether we get back to that, who knows? Who knows? Probably not. It's unfortunate. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because, like I said, like when I think of like the leftist, the socialist most likely to be on social media still in 5 years, I'm like, shoe on head. Yeah, that's the socialist. The barely a socialist who can't stop saying retard on fucking social media. Oh, shoe. That I love that she's the only leftist that I can see actually still being on social media in 5 years. That tells you a lot about where we are right now. You know? Oh, yeah, the lack of rhetoric is insane. I'll say Vance did impress me here with his rhetoric. I think he was far more skillful and well-spoken than I thought. And far more than you would assume by the couch fucker stuff that's rolling around online. It's just kind of depressing, man. Like I wish we had more to offer. That's truly what saddens me at the end of the day. I wish that both parties had more to offer the American people. That's what I truly wish. Man, I need to be streaming more. I need a better setup. Okay. I am going to go make dinner. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been fun. I think maybe we'll do like an official political stream here because like there's a lot. I have fun ranting. I do have fun. Yeah, they were very cordial, which was good. A couple parts, Waltz looked like he was about to melt. Yeah, I do like it. It had that civility you would have expected from like McCain Obama, which I loved seeing again. Thank God, you know. But I expect this conversation to continue in the Discord, so please join over there. Again, thank you guys so much. I know that Matt's not here right now, but thank you, Creamy, for continuing, for like having that debate. That was just such a great thing earlier today to like walk into the Discord and be like, there's people, even in my small community, you know, just having a good faith debate about something I made a video on about EVs was the most recent thing. That was just so cool to walk in on. Thank you so much for that. That was just a cool experience. I'm hoping that as we grow this community, we'll get to see more of that. I expect this conversation to continue on the Discord where I'm not there to talk over. I will see you guys later. I'm going to go get dinner. Peace out. Have fun, guys. Have a great night. I hope everything goes well for you. We'll do a political stream here soon and probably... Oh, I need to start playing Mass Effect, too. I'm also going to put up a poll as to whether we're going to start a playthrough of Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic. We got to... I think we were leaning towards Knights of the Old Republic.